Satanas! Hail! Satan!
Greetings, heathens. Welcome to Hail Satan. This is the podcast exploring Satanism, culture, and life in general through the eyes of modern Satanists. My name is Joseph Rose. I'm part of a thriving congregation called Satanic Delco, and we welcome members from anywhere in the world. If you want to learn a little more about that, visit satanicdelco.com. Today, I'm going to share a recent conversation in response to the question, is Satanism a religion? If you have a moment, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. You'll find links there to join me on social media, a form to send me an email, and a link to join up with the whole gang on Patreon. We have a few different tiers to choose from with various benefits, including the one-of-a-kind Greetings from Hell Satanic Postcard of the Month Club. But aside from that, joining us grants you access to our private Facebook group, our lively private Discord server, our weekly Zoom gatherings, game nights, movie nights, music Zooms, full video episodes of Late Night with Satanic Delco, stickers in the mail, bonus content, special events, and much more. If you're interested in being part of an active, thriving satanic community, Satanic Delco is where you'll find it. All right, guys. So before I get into playing this conversation, I want to give you some context for it. You may have heard about it, but I'm sure it's brand new to some of you. The project that has had most of my attention lately is Late Night with Satanic Delco. This is a late night live streaming show hosted by myself along with various members of Satanic Delco. On the Saturday nights that we do it, it airs live at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should be. It's fun. Furthermore, the show airs live to everyone, but once it's over, it is archived and made available exclusively to members of Satanic Delco. So this conversation was just a part of that first late night show that we did. I was on that night with 6 fantastic members of the gang. I was in there with Ashley, Kirsten, Lyart, Christian, Patience, and Andrea. It's pretty raw, I would say. We had no real notes or guidance of any kind. It was at the very end of a particularly sleepless period, at least on my part. I was high on drugs, and I was nervous about the new live streaming situation. Having said all of that, I think the first show went pretty damn well, and I expect them to get better and better. So here is a portion of the conversation that we had that night asking, is Satanism a religion, in front of a live audience? Now, we're here to talk about, is Satanism a religion? Andrea, you mentioned you might have some thoughts on this one.
Yes, and I think the question isn't so much, is Satanism a religion, as much as it is, what is religion? Like, what's the definition of religion?
Sure.
During my research, I actually found like multiple different things. Some things say the belief in God makes it a religion. Some things say, it's just a system of beliefs. I had a Hebrew school teacher that said, and when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, that religion is just a system of punishments and rewards to keep people in line. And that kind of always stuck with me. And I think that Satanism is kind of the antithesis of that. I think that religion is a very external thing. You make decisions based off of external forces, whereas Satanism is more of an internal thing and based on the individual. So I kind of don't categorize Satanism as a religion, but then again, some people say it is because it's a system of beliefs. So I don't know what I don't know what the answer is. It could
So
be just a
if
philosophy, it could be a religion.
yeah, normally the way we frame it, not that this is a rule, tell me if you agree. We normally frame it as, is it a religion or is it a philosophy?
Right. And I think that really what it comes down to is, what is the definition of religion? What is the definition of philosophy? Because I've seen them be kind of used interchangeably.
Yeah, and we
I
can,
mean,
I'll just say these things. We can touch on them in any time we want to, just to get them out there. I made a list of a few things that they aren't rules and they might not always fit, but things like a shared worldview, ritual and symbolism, community and identity, a moral or ethical framework, and a sacred text or foundational literature of some
right.
kind. Those are
Which is
some
what
of the
I definitely
markers.
found those definitions too. So
Yeah.
you
So
could say that it's a religion.
yeah, but for you, it feels like a philosophy.
Um, yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
I think that I can be convinced either way. I
Sure.
think it's just a word, and they're just
Yeah.
words, and you could kind of just use them however you see fit.
But along with that word, if you want to use it this way, also comes privileges if you want to get it all tied up with the government. If you want to
Well,
mix,
yeah.
if you want to mix
Yeah.
religion and government, you can. And if you call it a philosophy, you don't get shit. If you call it a religion, you get some shit.
Yeah.
Ashley, how about you? You got a feeling about this one?
I think technically Satanism kind of ticks all the boxes as a religion. How I practice it, not a religion, more of a philosophy and like a way of
really?
life. And
How do you make that distinction?
well, I think like I think more of like a structure, and everything I kind of escaped from Catholicism. I don't want that in my Satanism. And discovering the Satanic Temple and kind of watching them structurized and having a hierarchy, and we need ministers, and we need these programs, and we need set rituals, and we need to be tax exempt. It lost all of the rebellion and kind of like punk rockness of Satanism.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that for sure. Christian, how about you?
Yeah, so as you can see, the answer is going to vary wildly, especially with a group Satanist. But so there is a simple answer. It's more what was just brought to light with Andrea, like the technical aspect. The answer is yes, and I'm not going to go into the nuance of why I feel it is or isn't a religion. At this moment, I would say it is a religion. But here's some interesting things that a lot of people don't even think about, even outside of Satanism itself, but any sort of religious or non-religious people out there. The term religion, the definition, is actually only roughly about 130 years old. And it was created by academics to allow them to pragmatically study cultures in the world that had kind of a mysterious element to them, these strange practices, differing belief systems, that sort of thing. And so it allowed them to technically understand in their own scholarly application, right? And so, according to professional scholars at this moment, over 130 years of research that they have done, Satanism actually meets all the academic criteria to be called a religion. One of the things that I find very interesting about anyone outside of Satanism, basically from their etic perspective, they all seem to have the answer to this question. And it's interesting that everyone that's not a Satanist has this answer. That would also go into the topic of what Satanism actually is. And in my personal wanderings around other people, whether they're Satanists or not, I find that anyone that's not a Satanist will immediately be able to answer that question for you, what Satanism is. So anyway, we're not going to go there. But
oddly enough, I've always found that I never give a fuck about the opinion of people who aren't Satanists about what Satanism is.
Yeah, so exactly. And so the idea that like Andrea said, what even is a religion? Well, technically, religion, the word and the meaning and everything really doesn't belong to practitioners of whatever they think a religion is. The system of beliefs. Define it however you want to define it. Yeah. But this word and the idea of it is very young to the world and really only belongs to academics. That's it. That's the really easy answer. Yeah. So,
Patience, got a feeling about it?
Well, I think that Satanism is a religion, and it can be a religion, but it's also a philosophy. So you could be another religion and lean on a satanic philosophy, and I could also say you could do that for any religion. You could lean on some of their ideas and take the philosophies, but not follow the traditions exactly. So for me personally, I would consider my Satanism to be a philosophy. Within my other big interest is thelema, so I'm like a satanic thelemite, I guess, is kind of where I am right now with how I understand Satanism, and how Satanism, the way that I understand it, and the philosophy that, or like what has drawn me towards outsider Satanism, is that it is so rational and that it is not theistic. And because it's all of the things that help keep me grounded, it allows me to be a more rational person, but I can also experience all of this mystical stuff that I'm into through my thelemite practice. So for me, it's a philosophy, but I love being a part of the religious community of Satanism because it enriches my life and it makes me a better person, and especially when I feel that, I'm more of a magical thinker, so I really need the anchor of rational people around me to help keep me grounded.
Yeah. And it's not even like, I definitely hear what you're saying and it makes perfect sense, but it's not even like Satanism has to just be, I don't know, a thing that drags you into being grounded or something like that. Like a lot of it is how we define words, right? We talk about that a lot too. But like, I'm really into magic, but when I say magic, I know what I mean. And cynical people, when you see on like internet Satanism, you see how everybody's going at it and bitching about this and that, and it's fun. TST type people will look at like Church of Satan type people and be like, oh, they believe in magic, fucking dumbasses. They're, supernatural. Meanwhile, do they really? They probably not exactly the way you're describing it. I fucking love magic. I look for magic in my life. I'm a fucking rad magician myself, and I have been for a long time. But I don't believe in the fucking supernatural. I'm not a fucking asshole. I would already believe in the Lord if I wanted to be that. So yeah, I know what magic means to me. I've been trying to write about it for like 2 years now. But I swear I'm going to finish that essay soon. But yeah, I love magic and I experience it and I seek it out in life and I use it. And it's the reason we're here now. That's the way I think of it. When I listen to Black Sabbath, and I get that feeling that I get when I listen to it, or the feeling that I get right now from using some of the Earth's magic medicine. That's magic to me. You're telling me this thing grows out of the earth. I smoke it a little and my life gets better? Fuck you. That's magic. You can explain it away with scientific fucking facts and talk about atoms and shit, but it feels like magic to me. And that's more fun to think about. And as Kirsten famously told us once in our group, that Satanism is fun and it should be fun. And yes, we shouldn't ever let ourselves forget about that part of it. Because if you're going to outwardly identify in the world as a Satanist, you already know you're inviting some weird shit your way. Unless you live in a bubble of Satanists, if your whole life is like our Discord server, then yeah, cool. Nobody bats an eye. But in the real world, now people are, even if they don't say it to you, they're talking about you. Fucking, what's up with Patience? She went fucking weird as shit. She used to be a little weird. Now she likes Satan? What the fuck?
Joseph, the thing with outsider Satanism is though, like there is so much room to do all that magical stuff too, but it is so grounded because
Yeah.
of the, the thing that I'm coming from, or that my history of like the Pentecostal Christianity. Like there is no rationality there at all.
Yeah.
And so like being keyed up into a magical thinking mind and being put in that realm, that's insanity, and that is not healthy. And Satanism, it's not ever gonna lead me into that realm, because there's so much place to root yourself into things that are grounded in science, but it also allows so much expansiveness around you, because especially in outsider Satanism, it doesn't dictate what you are as a Satanist. It leaves so much room for creativity. So I just want to, talk again, just briefly, about how there's so much creative power within this satanic group specifically, and with this outsider Satanism, that I can be a Thelemite and I can, start incorporating Satanism, and I can see it become like a charge up or an elevated way to increase my energy and to be a magical thinker. But I feel, because I have a strong foundation now in a rational group, that I don't have to worry about, I have like a tether. And so for me, that philosophy creates so much stability in my Thelemite religion.
Yeah, and I've found in our group, however many people we have, we have hundreds of people spread everywhere, not only geographically, but in every area of life and Satanism, And I think just recently you were saying, Patience, that I think in particular you were talking about like stuff we've been doing in the group, but what that means a little in the larger sense is like a satanic religious community, the way we have. You were feeling like a 10-year-old because you're able to like have all this magical thinking or creative outlets and all this thing. You feel like a kid. And when I think about magic and write about magic and stuff, I have to stop myself from overusing the phrase childlike. We always talk about a childlike sense of wonder or imagination or any of those things. And that's a big part of it for me. Like I said, even this, look at what we're doing. It's fucking the middle of the night. I am so tired.
You need to sleep.
I haven't
I'm so
slept.
happy.
I'm glad.
Well,
I love it. But go ahead.
as someone in the chat suggested,
What?
have you heard the magic of cocaine?
No.
I've not yet tried that one, I have to say. It hasn't been on my radar, but who knows? One day before I'm gone, maybe we'll, if you know what,
on your deathbed, we'll give you a line.
If any of you guys are familiar with Jerry, if Jerry will sit in this room with me and do it with me, I will do cocaine. I'll do cocaine on this live stream if Jerry will sit here and do it.
Yes.
I've never done it. I've never tried it. I've never wanted to, honestly. I'm happy with my organic substances, but whatever. Liar, what do you think of this whole religion business? Is Satanism a religion or a philosophy or something else?
Yeah, so I think like it kind of borders religion and philosophy. It like rides right on that middle line. And the way I practice Satanism, I think, is basically religious. I religiously practice the philosophy. I adhere to my beliefs in Satanism. I understand that my beliefs aren't the only beliefs in Satanism, just like, different branches of Christianity and everything. But yeah. I do try to adhere to what I believe in and, kind of set myself up for future success with the kind of, things that I believe in within Satanism and the things that I hold myself to.
If you look at Satanism or just like a philosophy in general, a life philosophy, there are many of them out there just in that context. For me, the way it works is a philosophy exists on paper. It is a thing you can learn about and you can apply it to your real tangible life. That puts it in the real world. But still, that's the whole of it is right there. It's up to you to either follow it explicitly or interpret it your own way, and it becomes part of your mindset. And that's great. Religion, for me, I don't know exactly where the line is or what the rule would be, but it's when it becomes more tangible. Like, again, if you know, I always use Satanic Delco as my example because it's the only religious community I've ever had. And well, there's the first part of it. We have a community. You know, we're not alone in a room with a book learning about a thing. We're experiencing relationships with people that have even just one thing in common, which might be a vague interest in this thing called Satanism that we don't even interpret the same way. You know, so it's very thin. The connection begins at a very thin layer. But what makes it more of a religion to me is everything that goes on top of that. We have real community. We really interact. We go out to dinner. People come from across the fucking country to come camping with us. You've been with us. You know what I mean? I don't even remember where you live, but it's nowhere around me. You know, but you made your ass and we spent a weekend together hanging out and having experiences that we'll probably remember for a long while. I think when we go to camp and do our shit that we do, I don't think it's usually something you forget by the next weekend, you know?
I definitely did not forget our time there.
Yeah.
Like, it was definitely a fucking blast for me.
Yeah, and that feels like more than a philosophy. It's not like we're every minute we spend together, we're in the books talking, how do we interpret this line about Satanism? Satanism is about our life. And so when we share our actual lives together, you know, that's the result of a person
To
who
me, it
found
feels
themselves.
like family.
Yeah, and it's so
And I
that's
feel like
Exactly.
it's a family. Yeah. Like we've created, you know, this is a family that I like want to be a part of.
yeah, and all of our even here, you know, there's like a few people here, but even amongst just us, our Satanism, you know, if we were to write down privately all of what our Satanism is, we would have vastly different answers. You know, we'd probably have some overlap, but we'd have a lot of unique shit. And I think if you talk to 100 fucking Satanists, you're going to get a real high percentage of like different shit. And I've always liked our group that way. That's why we don't really do any kind of gatekeeping thing like that. One say, well, you like the 7 tenets? What are you, some kind of nerd? Get the fuck out of here. No. We let any kind of nerds, you know what I mean? As long as, not every, but, you know, a lot of different kind of nerds. So yeah, for me, it is a religion. And another aspect of it that this doesn't make it a religion, but it's sort of a part that I like. In a lot of the world, definitely America for sure, when you talk about religion, if you have my friend, he's real religious. What does that mean? It means he's a Christian. That's what it means. Usually,
God.
you know, yeah, you might have a really like over the top Muslim friend who won't shut up about it, but most of the time it means Christian. And I'm probably the most religious person I know. I don't know a motherfucker who spends more time actively engaged with their religion than I do. My whole fucking day is with this Satan. I wake up in the morning and my first message is to a Satanist, and my second message of the day is into a whole bunch of Satanists. You know, that's how I start every day. The last shit I do at night is when I remember, I go on our server and I write my little brief reflection of the day, which is what a positive thing to do. You know, who thought of that? What a great idea. Just kidding. But it is nice, even when I do it, because I'm grumpy, I'm old, I get grumpy, and it's real easy to focus on the negative most of the time. So we have a little thing where we go in and reflect on what were the good parts of today. And maybe, you know, if you had a rough day, maybe the only good thing was you had some weed before bed. Maybe that was it. But think about that. Remember that. And so, I don't know, a long way of saying it's all the tangible stuff that's off the page that makes it feel like religion to me. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Where are you at with this, Kirsten?
Yeah.
Fun. It's just fun.
It's just fun, yes.
It's just fun.
Just fun. Yeah, I think I actually, most of the time when this conversation comes up with a group of Satanists, I've found that people are, you know, defending it for themselves as a Satanist. I mean, not that we have to defend it to each other, but they're they're explaining and defending Satanism as a religion. And it's only really been recently that I which is surprising, but recently I've heard a little bit more variety of opinions that are not quite 100% it's a religion. Some people I've heard say no, or it's philosophy. Yeah, I hear that a lot from some people, but they're not as maybe in depth into. They don't really necessarily identify as a Satanist. They're just like, I like Satanism as a philosophy, sort of, but they don't consider it an identity category the way some people might consider their religion an identity category. To say I'm a Christian, I'm a woman or whatever. So I feel that it's I don't know. It's interesting that I am hearing so many more diverse opinions here. I've always been the kind of person who says, well, I'll defend it as a religion because for many people it is a religion. For me, I think of it as more of a philosophy, and I don't mean that to devalue it at any way at all, because I don't think that calling something a quote unquote religion means anything. Christian mentioned earlier that the only people that word matters to are scholars or religious scholars, and I actually believe it or not hadn't thought of it like that before, and he's right. But to me, who it matters to is like the government, and the government, whether it's for tax reasons or for some sort of like a court purpose or whatever, and in different circumstances has to evaluate something on the merits of whether or not it is a religion. And I don't really think that the government, it shouldn't matter if it's a religion or not for the government. You shouldn't get tax breaks because you're a religious organization. I think that's a bullshit,
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Don't get me started on religious exemptions. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, that's a big part of it. And so to me, when I hear religion, if somebody says they're religious or what is your religion, I think, oh, what kind of God do you believe in or not believe in? That's how I have used the term my whole life. And only since I got involved, and I was never raised with religion, so it wasn't really
wasn't special
on my radar.
Or precious.
Sure. And I think that one thing when I joined Satanic Delco and I started talking to more people about their Satanism, but their previous religious histories, I think that I realized, or something. I'm speaking anecdotally, obviously. I haven't done a study here, but that a lot of people come to Satanism because they're looking to replace an old religion that they had. That's maybe not maybe that's a real simplistic way of looking at it. I don't want to say replace an old religion.
Replace it, but,
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, they find it after they've been burned.
Something they're comfortable with.
And there's a couple reasons. One reason is, I'm looking for community. I lost a lot of community when I left the church. That's a good, legitimate, thing that you could go need. And even thinking about that, okay, if I'm going to expand my definition of religion, that might be something I consider. Is there a community around this thing? Because you don't really think of a community of other philosophies. Although there might be people that study philosophy, I don't think that they're congregating in quite the same way that religions are. But still, I tend to lean towards philosophy. The other thing that people say that they look for is I wanted a moral code. I had this Bible or this, dogma or whatever that I've been following my whole life that has been guiding my decisions and stuff like that. And when I deconstructed that, I lost that sort of guidance. And it helps me to have a philosophy, whether that is 7 sentences or 7 tenets, or it is a entire multiple books written by multiple people for decades of a religious organization's history. They have something that they can look at and they can sort of take that and evaluate.
Yeah, and there's some kind of power in if you feel a certain way. We say sometimes that Satanism, some people's view is that it is descriptive. It's saying you are the way you are, and then somebody wrote a description of a type of person, and it happens to be the type that you are. You're a Satanist. You just happened to be the type of person who is a Satanist, which is a little different than I strive to one day become a Satanist. Satanism is that thing, so I'm going to try to do that thing. Those are two different things. And I don't know if there's a wrong one. I don't know if one of those is wrong. I like the descriptive thing feels like something, but I don't know. It's always, what if you're a piece of shit? Yeah. What if you're a piece of shit? And, or what if you're weak? meaning, what does that mean? Weak is a loaded word, right? You know, and Anton LaVey wrote about that word, and people have a lot of opinions about what it means. But whatever it means to you, what if you're that? What if you're just not getting it done in life personally, but you strive to be a person that does? You don't want to be a loser. You know what I mean? You don't want to be a magicless failure at everything. So you strive. You've read about Satanism, and God damn, it feels powerful. And I want to feel that. I want to live that life. I want to conjure that fucking magic. And so in that case, can you change? I think maybe you can. Sometimes you can change. And maybe that, and is it a change? Here's another version of it. Guys, I'm on weed at this point. Just let me roll. That's another version of it. But another version of it is, what if all of that is already in there? What if inside you are a bad motherfucker? You already know what you want. And what you want is maybe a little, it's a little to the left. You know what I mean? But you haven't been able to open that up. You haven't been confident enough. Maybe you've been in a weird situation growing up, or with your family or partner or whatever you got. Sometimes there can come a turning point or an opportunity to open that door and find yourself after you've been some other thing for too long. Maybe. I don't know. I've never thought about this until right now.
We should also point out to the audience that's watching, so Satanism isn't for everybody, because we can all realize the steep cost of selling your soul to Satan. So, I mean, that's something to consider, right?
Yes. Yeah. You've got to be damn sure. You shouldn't go into a deal like that unless you're sure. All right. Well, do we have any closing thoughts? Have we decided, is Satanism a religion or not? Who votes? Put your hand up. Who says it is not a religion? I thought we had some. Are you motherfuckers tricking me?
I don't know. It could be.
I think it is a religion, and I agree that other people, it's their religion. But for me, I said I lean more philosophy. So I still want to say that. I'll support everyone who says they're Satanist and it should be religion. I'm like, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, to me, it doesn't matter at all. I feel like for me, it's my religion. But if you say, absolutely not, it's a philosophy, I don't even have a feeling about that. It doesn't even enter into the ballpark of good or bad. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, cool. I just, because what does religion mean? It doesn't mean shit. It means what it means to me.
Exactly.
I don't care what it means to you. I mean, I care on the level of it's fun to talk about, but I'm not going to change my mind, and I'm certainly not going to try to change yours. All right, guys. There was just a little chat from our first episode of Late Night with Satanic Delco. I urge you to get subscribed to our YouTube channel and link up on Instagram as well. I use that the most to keep people posted about what we're doing. So, if you've got a moment out there, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. Stay safe out there, and hail Satan.
Robin, she didn't have the evil free service.